All right, everybody, welcome back to Unstuck, where every week we talk to guests, experts, or just myself sometimes when we're talking about how to get unstuck in life and just generally how to live a more purposeful, fulfilling life. And I know a lot of times, we get into these positions where we don't really know how to move forward and we feel like we're not getting any momentum or traction and getting out of those situations. And that's what my podcast is all about, learning how to get unstuck from those things. So, without further ado, this week we're talking about something that is honestly kind of a hard topic to talk about, but I think it's really important, and that is being lonely as an adult. And I'm not talking about, physical loneliness, but the sense of feeling alone a lot during your 20s. I read an article recently that was saying and describing how your 20s is actually the loneliest decade of your life. And that's because, if you're following the traditional route, a lot of us turn 18, go to college, get out of college, go work a job. Maybe that job takes you to a new city where you make friends. Maybe you have to transplant your life to a new city whenever you get a new job. And you're just kind of stuck in this position where you don't really know what the future looks like, and that can be scary sometimes. You also probably don't have a spouse yet, or at least speaking for myself, you don't have a spouse in your 20s, you don't have kids, your family and your parents live I don't know, halfway across the country in some small hometown that you can't see yourself moving back to. Maybe your extended family even lives across the country as well. And a lot of times it just makes you feel so lonely. You truly only have your friends around you and that's it. And it's a really isolating experience. But I think by talking about it, it kind of takes away some of the power from it, and just even helping relate to the fact that I feel alone a lot of the times and I feel lonely. If I can help anybody else kind of work through those feelings, I feel like I've been successful today. So I want to talk about loneliness in general, why we feel it, why it comes about, how we can kind of address it, and just maybe some tips and tricks on removing some of the power that it has over you, so that way you can kind of feel a little bit less stuck in this regard. The specific kind of loneliness that I want to address is this sensation of not feeling connected to people and not feeling seen in your 20s. So whenever you go out with your friends, maybe they go to the same restaurants or bars all the time, and you just don't really feel like you guys are diving deep into the meaningful conversations that help you connect to somebody. Maybe you're just talking about surface level things, or you're talking about other people or gossiping, and you never really get into the meat of people's past experiences, their history, their traumas, their life stories. And not doing that and skipping over that groundwork just in service of talking about something that's super surface level and not meaningful, that actually impedes your connection down the line. It prevents you from connecting to those people in a deep manner. And so whenever you default to this surface level conversation and these distractions, it leads to you feeling like you're not physically alone, because you can always text these people and ask, to go do something, or ask to go, I don't know, go out drinking or go get distracted with them. And that prevents you from feeling lonely in the moment, for sure, because you have plans in that moment. But whenever you come back from doing that thing and those people haven't really fulfilled you, haven't really seen you for who you are, and haven't connected with you, whenever you get back from doing that thing, you literally are going to feel the exact same thing again. And it's a cycle. And we trick ourselves into thinking that we won't experience it next time if we can just have one more plan, if we can just go out one more time with those people. But I think a big part of getting unstuck is recognizing your patterns in life and recognizing whenever you're contributing to the problem. And in this case of being lonely as an adult, sometimes we are the ones that are contributing to it because we're not taking the steps needed to actually feel connected to people. So ultimately, this feeling of loneliness as an adult that I'm referencing, they're really specific, deep down. At the end of the day, you don't have anybody to share your life with. You don't have people that you can just call and talk to and really just vent to and have them see you for who you are. And the reason is because you don't have enough people in your life that see you. You don't have enough people in your life that can really just show up in your life, not ask any questions about what you're doing, who you're dating, how your job's going, but just get down right into the middle of your relationship and just start talking about some of the inside jokes that you had back in the day when you lived close to each other, or, just immediately pull out the person that you know you are deep down. The time spent with those people is truly so healing. And that's the feeling we're going for, right? Is to come up and build relationships that allow you to feel that sensation over and over again. And whenever you have that and you are surrounded by those people who you're occupying most of your time with, that's whenever you feel like you have a true sense of community. And until you do that, you will experience loneliness. And this will be a problem that persists unless you go out and take the steps to fix it. And at the same time, loneliness adds to this problem of feeling stuck. Whenever you're stuck in a bad job, or you're stuck in a relationship you don't want to be in, or like you're stuck in a friendship that you don't care about anymore, and you also have this undertone, this undercurrent of loneliness, it actually makes you stay in those situations longer sometimes. It literally makes you stay in those situations that you yourself are feeling stuck in, and you're responsible for it. Like, you are the one that is continuing the pattern of feeling stuck in a situation. So instead of addressing that situation, you go and find distraction. And a lot of the times, these aren't really fulfilling distractions, and they are not making you feel less lonely. They're actually making you feel more lonely at the end of the day, because you come back and the problem is still there, and you feel like no one has like truly seen you and been able to help you with the problem at its core. I think now that we've kind of laid out the problem of loneliness and the sensation of feeling like you are truly alone as an adult, and this being such a difficult position, there are 4 things that you can do to actually solve this and to feel better about yourself day to day and to not feel so alone in life. At the end of the day, the goal of these exercises is to help you realize that, like, while you might physically be alone, you are not lonely. And there's a difference between the two, because you can physically be alone and not feel lonely. Like, you can still feel like you have a support system to rely on and to lean on whenever you need it, and still have that community to back you up. Whenever you're physically alone, that's okay. And getting okay with that uncomfortable feeling of being alone is something that you have to do as an adult, because unfortunately, the time that you spend being alone is probably going to increase as you get older and older. And so just being able to get comfortable with this sensation of being alone, but without tying a narrative to it and without feeling lonely, that's how you actually solve this situation. So going back to the 4 solutions on how to feel less lonely as an adult. Number 1 is you're gonna spend time, and be super intentional about this. Spend time reconnecting with people from your past that know you on the deepest level. I'm talking like friends from college, maybe friends from high school, friends from your first job, where you remember having such a fond experience with them, and you feel like they know you at your core. And maybe it's because you guys shared the same experience, or maybe it's because you went through something together, but you can laugh about it at the end of the day. Try to spend some time right now, this week, reconnecting with them. Send them a text. Say, hey, I miss you. Like, when can I see you? Or, hey, I miss you. Remember when this happened in this class? Remember when this happened at this activity that we were at? And instantly it'll help you feel a little bit better, because these people that we have, and you know exactly who I'm talking about whenever I describe this feeling, like, we all know those people in our lives that pull really the essence of who we are out of us, and we just feel like ourselves around. And I would say, like, maybe it's 2 to 3 people, but just reach out to them and like reconnect with them. See if you can like find a way to spend time together. If they live in a different city, ask if you can come visit. Like, and then if you have the trip coming up in 5 weeks, you're gonna spend all those 5 weeks reconnecting with them and getting ready for the trip, and it'll just be amazing. And it's truly some of like the most therapeutic medicine for the soul, is just seeing and spending time with people that know you at your deepest level and that you feel completely yourself around. Number 2 is that you're going to start spending time putting yourself out there strategically. And what I mean by strategically is, if you think about it, if you are already feeling lonely, your energy reserves are probably not the highest. You're probably a little bit sad, not the highest motivation to like go out and do things and do activities. So you need to be very strategic with the energy that you spend on these activities. So what you need to do is rely on some of your friends and ask them about like things that they have found other friends doing, and just make sure that whatever you're doing has been vetted. Like, that whenever you go, it's not going to be a waste of time, and you're not going to get discouraged, because what we're looking for here is small wins, right? Just small reps where you can like go to something on a Wednesday night for an hour and you strike up 4 conversations with strangers, right? And what you're looking for in those people that you meet is a connection. You're looking for like that little spark of friendship, or maybe it's romantic, I don't know, a little spark of connection to where you think that at some point down the line, I could see myself being close friends with this person. And I know it sounds a little bit crazy, but we all do it, right? Whenever you meet somebody, immediately you start thinking about all the ways they could be in your life. And if you don't, then you probably don't want to see that person again, right? So just be mindful of that feeling. Like, do you actually want to see this person again? And if so, just like pull out the notes app in your phone and write a little note and be like, hey, or just write a little note to yourself and just be like, I met so-and-so at X event on Wednesday. I liked them. They made me feel this way. I'm probably going to reach out next week. And then reference that note when you get home, just to remind yourself of how they made you feel. Whenever you go to these things strategically and you know that you've already asked around, right? You've already asked your friends, hey, what can I go to? Or how do you make friends? Or how can I put myself out there a little bit more? And they give you vetted recommendations, and you go out and you're able to like start going to those things and getting the small wins and getting small reps in. Hell, even the first time you go, bring one of those friends with you. Just start putting yourself out there and trying to begin to lay the groundwork for finding new people in your life that can truly see you and be connected to you. Even the action of doing this makes you feel a lot better because you know you're working the problem, right? Who else can relate to the sensation of like having this problem in the back of your mind that you have not started working on, and it just looming over you day in and day out? And the second you start working on it, you immediately start feeling better. That is what we're going for. The third solution is that you're going to start testing the waters of your existing friendships. So the friendships that I referenced earlier in the episode, the ones where you might not really be having fulfilling conversations, you might be just gossiping whenever you get together, you might not be intentional about your time, you're going to take those relationships and give them, what you're gonna do is just start fresh. Imagine like what you're gonna do is just start fresh. Like you're gonna start truly from square one with them, and this has to be a one-on-one exercise. This can't be in a group of like 3 or more, because then you kind of lose the plot whenever you do this. What I'm talking about is think about those people in your life that are your friends and that you like go to whenever you don't want to be physically alone, but you still don't feel connected to them. You're going to give them a chance to feel connected to you, and you're not going to write them off, because one of the best sources of like this antidote to feeling lonely is the people that are already in your life. And if you can leverage the connections and the friendships you already have and see like what takes root whenever you try this exercise with them, that would be amazing, right? Like you've already had these people that are pre-vetted, that are in your life, that you don't have to do all the foundational work from step 2 with. So what you're going to do is you're going to find those people, identify them, and one by one ask them to hang out individually. And then whenever you go and hang out, give them the chance to get to know you. Try to connect with them. And you can do this by one of several ways, right? Share some stories with them about your life. Tell them about your struggles, like where you came from, what was hard about growing up, what you want at the end of the day, what your desires are. Just tell them all of these things, and then ask them questions in return. Open up to them and be vulnerable. Give them the stories that you previously held back, that you were afraid that they would judge you for. True connections will never judge you for anything. True connections and the types of people that you want in your life will never judge you for being yourself. What you're going to do here is just open the door for those people and see if they walk through it. You'd be so surprised whenever you give people the chance to connect and you share your deepest emotions and how you're feeling with them. You would be so surprised at the people that will meet you exactly where you met them just minutes ago, and who you previously thought weren't capable of it. It truly will surprise you. So try to do that first before you continue to write off your friends that you find that you only see as distractions. Because at the end of the day, what we're doing is just putting feelers out there to see if any of our existing friendships can help us feel a little more seen at the end of the day, and can actually evolve into someone or a relationship that we can lean on whenever we're feeling lonely, and we can just express that feeling to them and ask if they can like come over and hang out and just be on the couch together. You know, like at the end of the day, you just want someone who sees you for who you are and accepts you. That's the antidote to loneliness. And the fourth solution is something that I think will resonate with listeners of my podcast, because I always talk about how you have a lot of the answers to the biggest problems in life within yourself already. And I think this one is no different. So I want you to approach this problem of feeling lonely by learning how to self-soothe, learning how to truly soothe yourself in those moments whenever you start to feel the anxiety spiral start, and you start and you start to ask yourself why you're so lonely and why nobody's in your life, why nobody sticks around, like why you don't have true friends that see you. Like, stop. The goal is to try to stop that in its tracks. And the way that we do that is by addressing the underlying fear of loneliness. The reason we experience loneliness is because we have a fear of winding up alone. If you think about it, this comes from something that isn't even ours. It comes from our DNA, biologically speaking, whenever we were evolving and whenever we were evolving, right? Like, we truly became a species that only survived and thrived the way that we have because we learned how to rely on each other. We learned how to be social. We are a social species. So the reason that we have this fear underlying is not something that each of us carries with us based on our experiences. It's something that is biologically encoded in all of us. Nobody wants to be alone because our brains at their very, very, very their very lowest level are truly reptile brains. Like, we literally only are trying to survive to the next day whenever you truly think about it and you truly go down to the lowest level of how your brain operates. You are trying to seek out survival. That is really what it is at the end of the day. And what our unevolved brains evolved into, and like one of the reasons that, we got to where we are today, but maybe it's no longer that helpful for us, is this sensation of knowing what's going to be a threat to our survival. And we were able to establish the fact that if we are alone, we won't survive. If we are alone in the world, we cannot survive. And so we carried that with us all the way up until like the 21st century to today. And that still lives within all of us. We still have this deep down innate fear that we might end up alone, and that will be a direct threat to our survival. So the way we kind of address that underlying fear is by challenging it. This is an exercise that anybody can do. Whenever you feel this fear coming up, literally challenge it and say, okay, say that I do wind up alone. What will happen? What will my life look like? Is that actually physically dangerous to you? I would argue no. We live in a world now where people can be self-sufficient. A lot of people that are elderly wind up alone and like they're totally fine. Maybe it's a bit sad, but like at the end of the day, you are going to be okay. You have all the resources you need to live a fulfilling life within you already. At the end of the day, you will be okay if you're alone and you wind up alone. Like, that is not an immediate threat to you. So challenging that fear that you're going to wind up alone and just asking yourself, like, why is that notion so scary? That starts to remove some of the power from it. And that starts to make you feel better about this concept of winding up alone. It makes you feel better about this concept of like loneliness. And whenever you can actually start to remove the power from it, that's when you stop feeling the sensation, funny enough. And it's like kind of ironic because a lot of the things in life and that I talk about on my podcast are centered around this, to be honest, which is whenever you admit it, call it out, label it, name it, and talk about it, you take away a lot of the power from the situation, because that's just something that a lot of us hold within us and we never externalize, we never vocalize it. And so it just becomes this massive problem in our minds. But really at the end of the day, whenever you're able to call out the fear that you have, just talk about it, it takes away so much of its power. So I want to end by saying, like, even if you are alone, you will be okay. Like, you are not in imminent danger. You truly will be fine at the end of the day, and you will figure it out. One day, you won't be lonely. You won't feel that ever again. And that'll be an amazing place. Like, you're going to wind up with a partner and kids if you want that, and all the things that you want in life. But learning how to cope with this sensation of feeling alone and being lonely in your 20s is something that no one talks about and no one gives you resources to cope with. So I hope this was helpful, and I hope you can implement even one of these 4 solutions I gave you. And thank you so much for making it to the end of the episode. And I can't wait to see you next week. All right, bye everyone.